Tansei, I'm Crises. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says the long-anticipated search of the Brady Landfill, which is owned by the City of Winnipeg, will begin. Kinew made the announcement in Winnipeg on Wednesday. Searchers will be looking for the remains of Ashley Shingoose. Her DNA was found in the apartment of Jeremy Skibitsky. He was convicted of killing 4 other Indigenous women in Winnipeg last year. At the time, Shingoose was called Muscadet Bijiikwe, or Buffalo Woman. She was not positively identified until recently. Her remains are believed to be in the Brady Landfill. Searchers will also look for the remains of Tanya Nipanak, who went missing from central Winnipeg in 2011. Winnipeg police have said Nipanak was a victim of Sean Lamb. However, Lamb was sentenced to 20 years in 2013 for the murder of 2 other women, also in Winnipeg. Premier Kinew says the Brady landfill search will start with Shingoose, then turn to Nipanak.
The focus that we're working on right now is Ashley Shingoose, because we have the information about the cell that we believe where she's located. But we are making plans to search for Tanya Nipanak as well.
Now to implications of a landmark court decision that is pitting land claims against property rights. The BC Supreme Court ruled the Cowichan First Nation has rights and title to a stretch of land in Richmond, BC, and that is sparking opposition and political debate. CTV's Rob Buffum now on a case that is far from over.
Fallout from a bombshell BC Supreme Court decision on Cowichan Tribe's land title continues to reverberate.
I think it's probably one of the most significant decisions we've had in Aboriginal law over the past 35 years.
The recent decision awarded the Cowichan Tribe's fishing rights in the Fraser River and title to a swath of land in Richmond, where the Vancouver Island-based First Nation previously inhabited a village in the summer. The province is launching an appeal.
The ruling could have significant unintended consequences for fee simple private property rights in BC, and that must be reconsidered.
The judge in her 800-plus page decision held that Aboriginal title and private property rights, known as fee simple, can coexist, and that the Cowichan tribes could repossess that land, says this Aboriginal law expert.
It's the first decision that really fundamentally provides a remedy to First Nations to take back private land.
The province is one of 6 defendants, along with the Feds, City of Richmond, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, Tsawwassen First Nation, and Musqueam Indian Band. Its chief expects it too will appeal.
My phone lit up like a Christmas tree when the decision came out, and they all, our membership that were sending me saying, we're appealing this.
The court found Aboriginal title on land held by the Feds, province, and city. It also found title over private lands, including businesses and homes that aren't subject to an order, but is a finding experts say could apply to private property across BC.
The First Nation can go back to court and seek remedies like an ordinary landowner to have those landowners removed from their land.
The opposition Conservatives say the province should have negotiated this case, avoiding uncertainty over private property rights and protracted appeals.
I'm actually very concerned about how the chill that this project, or this court case, I should say, will put on British Columbia as an investable jurisdiction.
We have to work, of course, with First Nations to make sure that we move forward with this project, and we are.
The province says it's seeking a stay of the order pending its appeal.
Robert Buffum, CTV News.
4 First Nations within the Nwin-Wenda Anamuk, or Four Winds Partnership, signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the province of Manitoba on Tuesday for the twinnings of the Trans-Canada Highway. According to the partnership, the MOU will see the integration of Anishinaabe laws into the project. APTN Sarah Bettens has the report from Whadjuk Onigam Nation near Kenora, Ontario.
Here at the Whadjuk Onigam Nation's Roundhouse, leaders from Manitoba join leaders from 4 Treaty 3 First Nations in a historic ceremony.
The 4 communities that are part of this partnership and us as a Manitoba government signed this agreement to work together to twin the Trans-Canada. It looks so beautiful here on the Ontario side. Now we want to catch up and maybe surpass Ontario on the Manitoba side.
On Tuesday, Manitoba Treaty 3 Grand Chief Francis Kavanagh and chiefs from the Four Winds communities signed a memorandum of understanding they say incorporates Anishinaabe laws into twinning part of the Trans-Canada Highway. The plan is to connect a 16-kilometer stretch of the highway near the Manitoba-Ontario boundary.
Anishinaabe usually use things in four. So I heard the environmental, the economic, the health and safety piece, and then of course the respect. And so those are the things that we'll keep in mind.
Shoal Lake 40 First Nation councillor Billy Wape says the MOU marks a historic shift in Manitoba's approach to consultation.
In prior years, consultation was done with a letter, sending it out and seeing if we're going to say yes or no. With this process, they're working with us on a weekly basis to move the project to where it needs to be.
The project will be guided by Manitowaki Ina'a Ko Ni Gawin, an Anishinaabe law describing how to live with the earth in a good way. Chris Skeed is the chief of Wajish Onigum.
Our laws are sanctioned from Creator. They're not derived from like a courtroom. Direction comes from our ancestors, those spirits who will guide us in the right way. Obviously comes from the lands, the waters, the air, the animals.
The Niwin Wendaniwak, or Four Winds Partnership, was formed in 2018. It includes Shoal Lake 40, Waschagamas Bay, Nisatchewan, and Wajak Onigum First Nations. Together, they developed the Harmonized Impact Assessment to bring Anishinaabe knowledge into the project planning process. Skeed says it involves extensive consultations with elders and community and takes additional environmental concerns into account.
Maybe there was portions of the mapping that may have went through kind of a water crossing, a swamp where, we go there to pick our medicines, or, perhaps it would displace some type of animals or the ecosystem.
Following the ceremony, the leaders met again to discuss the next steps.
Formalizing a bit more of the steps of the relationship, including some funding conversations. And then from there, like I said, as soon as we can get from the design phase to shovels in the ground, I think everybody will feel good about that.
Leaders from both sides say the partnership could serve as a model for other jurisdictions.
It's historic in nature. It's huge. It's a consultation at the end of the day. That's what it is.
Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, Wajak Onigum Nation, Ontario.
Two Indigenous leaders in Manitoba have united to push for economic prosperity for their people. APTN Sav Jonesa recently attended the event at the Forks in Winnipeg earlier this week.
The Southern Chiefs Organization and Manitoba Métis Federation say they are partnering to advance economic reconciliation for their people. They signed a memorandum of understanding early Wednesday, declaring their intent to pursue an Indigenous-led economic development strategy. SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels says it's a powerful statement of unity.
The MOU we are about to sign is more than an agreement between SCO and MMF. It is a commitment to lead together, to prosper together, and to protect the lands and waters for generations to come.
SCO represents 32 First Nations in Manitoba, and the MMF represents tens of thousands of Red River Métis across Canada. The partnership comes on the heels of Bill C-5, also known as the One Canadian Economy Act, which will fast-track major natural resource projects. The MOU outlines a 5-year framework they will follow to ensure their priorities are reflected in those and other development projects.
We are positioning ourselves as active partners, ensuring that First Nations and Red River Métis communities are not just consulted, but are central to the decision-making process.
The two will work together to push for jobs, trade opportunities, sustainable forestry, and harvesting practices. They hope that will result in lasting revenue for generations to come. MMF President David Chartrand says he's been waiting for a partnership like this for almost 3 decades.
Premier Kinew, I assure you, will pick this up quickly. When the SCO 31, 32 chiefs come together with my cabinet, province-wide elected, and we join forces to protect our natural resources, our harvesting, and all those that come beside it, it'll be a force to reckon with. We will not just let somebody else decide the fate of the future.
Chartrand hopes their unity will show other Indigenous nations what is possible when they work together.
We'll have differences, trust me, but we'll also have more compatibility than differences. And when we find those differences, we'll find solutions to them, and we'll find how we make, because it'll be the betterment for each of us, not just for himself or me. It'll be for our people.
The MMF and SCO also plan to create a natural resource committee to set rules to ensure sustainable wildlife harvesting. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
York Landing First Nation in northern Manitoba declared a state of emergency 2 weeks ago. On Wednesday, a protest was held at the Manitoba legislature in support of the community. The community's ferry is shut down due to low water levels, leaving more than 600 people stranded with wildfires burning nearby. The community's other concerns from the low water levels include the growing cost of rising food prices, a potentially contaminated water supply, and expensive flights out for people who need to leave the community. York Landing leadership says it's time for an all-season road to be built and for water to be released from the Churchill River diversion. The province of Manitoba says it's working with Manitoba Hydro to address York Landing's needs, and the utility company is supplying additional boats to help with transportation. Rebecca Chartrand is the MP for the area. She met with York Landing elders and says she is here to ensure that other ministers are kept in the loop and the community has a voice with the right departments.
I am a voice. I have the opportunity to sit with Minister Sala, for example, this afternoon, and to bring your concerns forward once more and to try and find solutions together. So, I'm not here to make promises, but I would love to see an all-weather road in the north, and I will continue to do what I can to support that and to speak to, all of the provincial counterparts and the federal counterparts. So that is the commitment you have from me today.
After a month away from home due to a renewed wildfire crisis, members of the Pimicikamak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba are now able to return home again for the second time. Pimicikamak leadership and Canadian Red Cross have issued a return home notice for community members this week. Residents were forced to leave the community in mid-July when the wildfires shifted and threatened the community again, having just returned once the May wildfire evacuation notice was lifted last June. Flights from Winnipeg have been scheduled for Wednesday, August 13th to take people back home. Chief David Monias reminds people to have all official documents, medications, and personal items before departure. The Yukon Territory has also signed a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. state of Alaska to address the crisis of missing Indigenous people. The MOU was signed in Whitehorse on Tuesday. The agreement intends to strengthen cross-border collaboration on the murdered and missing Indigenous people issue and formalizes commitments on information sharing, improvements to public safety, and healing. It also aligns with the Yukon's MMI WG2S Plus strategy. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Coming up next, we'll take you to the Waves Language Conference in Ottawa. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Wednesday marked the second full day of the Global Indigenous Languages Summit in Ottawa. Some of the highlights included online safety tips for Indigenous youth and a presentation on the Hockey Night in Canada in Cree broadcast. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
You really don't know, based on a name, who you're speaking to on the other end.
Kyla Whitlow is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Florida. One of her jobs is to provide youth with online safety tips in an increasingly dangerous social media world. Whitlow says Indigenous youth are often the target of online human traffickers, so they should be armed with the right tools to protect themselves.
we have very large representation in Indigenous youth and in trafficked movements. So unfortunately, with that being the case, it really is important that we cascade what are safe practices. And within that, how are we working with traditional forms of knowledge keeping and understanding, and then relevance for today. So how are they exposing themselves? You would have heard us talk a little bit about, what are those indicators you're giving? What are those locations that you're sharing?
One of the afternoon sessions featured a presentation on the Hockey Night in Canada in Cree program, which is broadcast on APTN. Jason Chamakis has been part of the show since 2019. He is a professional musician, but a serious stroke in 2015 changed his life path. He lost most of his memory, but his Cree language remained largely intact.
No, my Cree language was always there. As a matter of fact, I do remember somebody telling me that when they came to visit me in the hospital that I barely spoke English, that I was always speaking Cree. And so that was never affected. It was always there, but it did take some time for me to start remembering how to say some words. They were up here, but I had to figure out to take my time, and so I could say these words more clearly.
As part of his recovery, Chamakis says he watched a lot of Edmonton Oilers games and eventually found his way onto the Hockey Night in Cree broadcast. He says because Cree is a very descriptive language, translating hockey terms from English is not as difficult as one might think.
My analogy is this: if you hear a story in English, it's going to be like in your brain for a younger person, it's going to be like watching a black and white TV with one speaker. But if you hear the story in Cree, then that TV becomes a high definition, big screen television with surround sound. All that much more color, all that much more vibrant. And that's how it is with Cree. It's really descriptive.
The Global Indigenous Languages Conference wraps up on Thursday. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Great explanation from Jason Chamakis. We now want to tell you about this week's third web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you think private property rights should take precedence over Aboriginal title rights? That's that CTV story we just aired. Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/poll to have your say. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Hi for staying with us. St. John's 26 and sunny. Fredericton rain in 22. 9 in Anujiwak. La Grande River 8. 17 in Saguenay, Quebec City, sunny and 25. Sault Ste. Marie 21, North Bay 19. Sudbury 19, Elliott Lake 22. Thompson rain and 9, Norway House 14. Winnipeg 22 and rain, Princess Harbour 17. Regina 17, North Battleford 14. Showers in La Ronge at 11, Stony Rapids 12. Rain in Grande Prairie at 15, Fort McMurray 20. Calgary 22, Edmonton 12. Vancouver 17, Victoria, Smoky and 15. 15 in Smithers, Prince George 18. 21 in Watson Lake, Mayo 20 and sunny there. Sun's out in Fort Simpson at 24, Yellowknife 20. Inuvik 17, Fort McPherson 14 and sunny there. Partly cloudy in Chesterfield at 9, Whale Cove 8. And Aglulik 5, Clyde River 5 as well. Artificial intelligence is offering a new way to learn at home. Some AI models have begun offering translation and the teaching of Indigenous languages. While this can be a positive in the efforts to revitalize Indigenous languages, our reporter Savannah Craig looks at the threat of non-Indigenous companies being at the forefront of this technology.
Google Translate started offering the first Indigenous language in Canada last fall. Inuktitut includes 31 dialects spoken by Inuit in Canada, the United States, Greenland, and Russia. While there is celebration in expanding the presence of Indigenous languages in New Age technology, there can be harms.
They're taking data that really, number one, it's given to them by governments, which I have a problem with, because they really should be consulting the Inuit. If they're going to benefit from that, there should be some kind of return for Inuit.
Kurt Etiel says companies in the Silicon Valley are harvesting data to produce Indigenous language AI models.
So there's lots of repositories of Inuit language in museums, in archives, in documents that governments basically make available. It's public domain, right? If it's publicly owned, then big corporations can go and harvest that and be able to use it for anything that they want.
Etiel developed his own Inuktitut AI application called Anyai. It provides instant translations, interpretations, and is available to convert text, audio, and video. The platform only offers translations in South Baffin Inuktitut, with the goal of expanding to offer other Inuktitut dialects.
If we're able to use our app to be able to communicate with our cousins in Greenland, all the way to Alaska and Russia, we have lots of relatives, the language becomes, not a barrier anymore, and that we can actually speak to those dialects as if we're a native speaker.
Michael Runningwolf is the co-founder of the First Languages AI Reality, which aims to revitalize Indigenous languages through AI.
With AI, you can have this opportunity to practice while you're at home, which you would normally require have a speaker in the house or an elder, and this plugs that gap.
Runningwolf says in order to build AI, it needs to be fed data.
We are highly sensitive to any community, withdrawing their consent. We want to be as ethical as possible, and so we don't take public data sets which may have been taken unethically.
To respect data sovereignty and allow Indigenous communities to be at the table, Etiel wants Indigenous language AI models to be Indigenous-led.
At the end of the day, we're encouraging government and policymakers to support small Indigenous companies so that it actually builds equity in our communities.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Ottawa.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. From all of us here, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Except.